Hey guys, and welcome to another Factorio Mod Spotlight. I'm Exterminator, and thank you for joining me. And if you can't tell already, we are going over Factorissimo 2 mod today. This is a complete rework from the ground up of the Factorissimo mod, which has been very popular. I did a spotlight on it quite a while ago when it first came out, the first iteration, but it had some performance issues and some other things that could be improved on, and the dev has recently, about a week ago, come out with a second version that is pretty much reworked from the ground up. So it's a separate mod you'll find on the mod portal, and it's really cool. So hopefully I can cover everything here, but I do want to mention first off that if I miss something or misspeak about something, don't worry, because on the mod portal, the dev has done an excellent job providing information. There's like a whole Q&A section which pretty much answers any questions you'd have, and there's a whole imager picture album of the features. So if I miss something, you should be able to find it on the mod portal, but hopefully I don't. So this version, what this adds is it adds 3 different size buildings now. If you use the first one, you may recall that there was really only one size. But this adds 3 different ones, and they're completely retextured, like new models, retextured, really great looking. And yeah, so we have 1, 2, 3. Each one is bigger. We'll look here. First one is 30 by 30 and 16 connections, which is pretty awesome. Next one is 46 by 46 and 24 connections. You can see the price is going up a fair bit. And then the last one, which is really expensive, actually, but worth it, 60 by 60 and 32 connections. Okay, so first of all, how do you get your connections? Well, first you need Alt View on, which I just turned on, and you can see these are all of our connections. But if you want to turn these off without turning off your Alt View, if you just hit Rotate R on top of it, it will get rid of these. So they're not always displayed unless you need them on to actually connect. So that's how you do that. And there is research tied with it, which I suppose we should go over first. Architecture 1, pretty cheap. You can get it with Red Science. This unlocks your Mark 1. And then from there, you have the option for all these other upgrades. So next one, you can get the Building 2. This one allows fluid connections, which is, again, only Red Science, which is good. And these have very detailed descriptions. I'm not going to read each one, but it should pretty much tell you exactly what it does. This one allows chest connections, allows you to transport items through your factory buildings using chests. You can rotate, and this, I'll explain the rotation thing in a little bit, but you can rotate the connection indicator to choose between input, output, or balance mode, and change the update rate, which again I'll go over in a second. Next, you can do circuit connections now, interior lighting. So if you remember, the first version pretty much just had it always day inside, which was pretty OP, especially because you could put solar panels in there and stuff, and just have like infinite solar fields and one like recursive set of buildings. But this one does not have that anymore. It is no longer daytime. It's either dark, or you can have your interior lighting. You can also, of course, I would imagine, put normal lights in there if you want. But once you research this, which is pretty cheap, you can just have lights in there that don't even take up space. Next is external overlay display. So this allows you to actually have the alt view display on them. The next one is requester chest, which I will explain in a minute, and then you can get your level 3. Recursion 1 allows you to nest factory buildings inside other larger factory buildings, meaning you can only do like a smaller one within a bigger one. And then this last one allows you to put the same size buildings within each other. And these are quite expensive, but I think fairly so. Understandably, because it's pretty powerful to have these recursive abilities. So, first one, we enter here, you just walk straight through the door. You don't hit enter or anything, that won't get you in, you gotta walk through the door. And I have a little setup here. You can see there's now a nice colorful thing, and it's pretty easy to tell wherever there's not the colored concrete is where your connections will be. And these do correspond outside, not line up directly, but it's pretty easy to tell if we just walk back out. The first 2 here, and then these 2 we'll just use for an example. You can see first 2 and the next 2. So pretty easy to get used to. I have a little power set up in here to demonstrate something. So we have a pipe connection coming in. Essentially, all you have to do is just put down a pipe, and you have to place it on both sides for it to work. So if I pull this up, you can see that little indicator goes away. So I've placed an underground pipe here with a fluid source pumping in water. The fluid source is cheat mode, by the way. I'm using cheat mode. So if I just place this here, you can see, boom, this shows up, and we have water coming in. Now, currently, this is on input mode, right? The arrow's pointing this way. If you rotate it, you get output mode, and it tells you. Rotate it again, balance mode. I'm not entirely sure how this balance mode works. I couldn't really tell much of a difference. I guess it allows it to flow both ways if you would want that for some reason. But I'm going to do input mode, and you can see over there on the right, it says update rate every 10 ticks. So this is one of the improvements performance-wise that the dev has done. You can change these pipe update rates, essentially. So, you know, if you have it every tick, it's going to take more performance than if you have it every 10 ticks. And you update these, if you mouse over this, and you hit either Shift R, or like Shift Rotate, or Control R, you can move it up and down. So Shift R, you can see I increased it to every 4 ticks, so it's updating more often. Do it again, and I go to every tick. That's obviously the fastest it can update, which is like normal game updates. And then if I hit Control R, it brings it back up or down, depending how you look at it, every 4 ticks, 10 ticks, 30, 120 is the max, which is 2 seconds, right? 60 ticks in a second. So that helps a lot with those. And then these have some special pipes too. Attracts fluids from nearby pipes, and this one ejects fluids. So this is an output pipe, this is an input pipe. These ones are a little bit different. I'm not exactly sure on the difference. Again, I did read over everything, but there's a lot to cover, so if I miss something, I'm sure you can figure it out on the mod portal post. But that does take care of that. So there's those, and then belt, pretty straightforward. You should be able, once if you just place your belt the other direction, it'll go the other way. Obviously, you need a belt going the correct direction on the other side, so I would need a belt going right to left on the outside, and then it would change. You can't just straight up change your direction mode because the belt obviously needs to be moving the right way. But anyway, so here's our power setup. If you remember, the first one had a specific building for power, like that you could put power in. You can put power now in any building. Solar, well, you can put it in here, but it won't do anything because it's not always day. It'll just be useless. But steam, you see we have a power source here. Currently it's on input mode, which means it's drawing power from our outside network. Now all you have to do is have power in here, and if you mouse over this and rotate it, it now goes to output mode. And you can see these, if I get rid of this, well, if I just connect this over here and I use a cheaty little power source, you can see that this is now pulling from this factory. You can see these are now working 100%. We're on output mode. I think that actually part of what these do is these have a higher flow rate potentially. I'm gonna reduce this a little bit. But yeah, these have a much higher flow rate, you can see, compared to these ones. So that's a pretty big difference. These hold like 10 and that was like 200. So that's the main difference for those. And then this, you can also, the cool thing, right, whoops, is if you do the same Shift R or Control R on this, you can increase or decrease the power transfer rate, either for inputting or outputting. So right now we're outputting. If I Shift R this, it increases power limit to 20 megawatts maximum output, and this goes all the way up to 100 gigawatts, so you're not going to have a problem with that. But if I bring it down to 5 to 1, you can see that these are now, this factory's only outputting a megawatt. So you can kind of easily control how much these input or output, right? If I just change this around, it's still on 1 megawatt, which means only 1 megawatt's going to input into this factory. And just really quickly to demonstrate, if I put in, I have researched recursive buildings, so if I put this in here, just to demonstrate, you can, of course, go inside more and more and more, which is kind of the point of this, how this works. So there's that. This one, I haven't put anything in, but just to demonstrate the size, it is quite a lot bigger, has more connections. And then this one is the largest, quite large, and even more connections. And I've done some other things here to demonstrate. So we do have, again, a pipe connection and belt connections, pretty standard. I just have a factory going here just to demonstrate that this does in fact work. We are inputting through here. Yeah, you can see this pipe holds 250, so that's the main difference there. I have this set to update every 10 ticks. We are inputting power here, and it's set to 10 megawatts. Now these chests, what these do, this is where you set your alt display over them. So we're making engines in here. If I just stick an engine in one of these, you actually need to put an item in here. You don't set it through like a menu like you would with other things. But if I put a thing in here and I come out, you can see we now have an engine. And you notice each chest has 4 slots and there's 4 chests. So I would imagine you could theoretically have like 16 different things. If I just like stick something random in each of these, not all of them, but just to demonstrate, you can see, there you go. So this can be really easy, help you tell kind of what's being made in each of these, which is super nice. And currently the dev said that this will not display when you carry it in your inventory, but that is coming in a future update. Okay, and another thing just to clarify, that these still do work in a way where whatever's happening inside them will continue happening even when they're in your inventory until it runs out of materials. Obviously, you don't have connections when it's in your inventory, but say you had a bunch of furnaces with like a buffer of like 100 iron in them, and you picked it up, they would still create steel until they run out of iron in their furnaces, even when the building's in your inventory. So that's something important to note. One of the last things, there is a factory requester chest, and what this does is it simply just requests any of these factory buildings that are in your network. If you like lost them in your storage or something, I have one here to demonstrate. You plop this down, and there you go. It just don't have to set anything, it automatically just requests, and there you go. So that's kind of a way to collect any that you may have lost. Here's a chest connection. If we go in here, right, and we see this is on input, again, you can change it, output, balanced. Not entirely sure what the balance thing does, but yeah, if we have 160 in here. If I go to output, you can see that this disappears. I put 200 in here, it disappears again, and you're gonna find it right into this chest. And you can use robots and logistic stuff with this. So if I'm like putting into a passive provider from the outside, right? You can see this fills up, and then I can put roboports and requesters in here and stuff and still request it. So that's another way to transfer. An important note here is this is much more UPS or performance, updates per second, much more game performance efficient than using belts. So, you know, once you get really big, you may want to switch to chest things, and you can, of course, grab from these with inserters, so on and so forth. So there you go. I believe that's pretty much it. Your circuit things are pretty straightforward. You have an input, and then you have an output. So if I like stick one of these here, that's an input, and I have one of these out here, that's an output. We should, except I put it in the wrong one, of course. Let's just, so third one. Yeah, there we go. So you can see this is now outputting. So this is actually the input, so you would want this the other way around, but you get the point. You can hook these up, wire them however you want, have circuit things going in and out. And there you go, guys. I know this is a longer one, but this mod is it's quite a bit to it, and it's a really, really nice rework. I think it's a very cool concept, albeit a little bit cheaty in general, just by the nature of it. I think it is a very cool concept. Lots of different stuff you can do with it, and yeah, this updated version is much better just in general, much more optimized than the first one, looks better, different buildings, so on and so forth. Very, very cool. Anyway, link in the description for the mod portal. In there you will find tons of information on it, the picture album, the Q&A thing at the bottom, and all that info. If I did forget anything, I apologize. There's a lot to go over, and again, you will find pretty much anything you're looking for on the mod portal page for it. But there you go. As always, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, feel free to leave a like. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this, the new version or just the mod in general, down in the comments. But until next time, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.